And hello YouTube, GSmaniamsmart here, and in today's video I want to talk a little bit about the story and lore in Flashpoint Living World Season 3 Episode 5, give you a quick little summary, give you some thoughts and opinions where I think we're going to be going for the next episode, for the expansion, and hopefully you have some thoughts in the comment section as well. That's coming up next. What's up everybody, GSmaniamsmart here, today with another brand new video for Gaming with GS, and glad to have you. Welcome back to another video. If you happen to be new to the channel, I want to welcome you as well, but I also encourage you to subscribe to the channel because we have plenty of other videos regarding Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 2 story, Guild Wars 2 guides, patch summaries, Guild Wars 2 news, all kinds of cool Guild Wars 2 and gaming content on our channel. So if you're interested, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as hit that post notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the most recent videos. So I think it's been long enough for everyone to finish the story for Flashpoint, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the story behind it and give you some of my thoughts. I also wanted to make a quick note that the reason why I didn't make this video sooner was, one, because I wanted to give everyone a chance to play the story, but two, also because this week was one of those weeks where not a lot of people watch YouTube, not a lot of people do their leisurely activities, mainly because this is finals week for a lot of people, and usually this week in this month is always kind of low on views, so that's the other thing. But let's talk lore, let's talk story. I'm going to try to make this video not as long as the other ones. Usually we do like a really long recap of everything that happens in each little instance, but I kind of want to keep it short. I feel like it's a bit more concise and everyone likes those a bit more. So there will be spoilers in this, obviously, and we will be talking about the entire story. I'll give you a little summary of it, but I'll also pause here and there to sort of give you some opinions and thoughts. So as the story begins, we are basically going towards Taimi's lab in Radanovus. And pretty much like every other story instance, it feels like a lot of these story instances have started with Taimi coming in on her communicator. And so I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a neat little motif in this season. But she apparently tells us that she has Nomad's machine, which is basically this device that is supposed to destroy Primordus and Jourmag at the exact same time to pin the magics against each other. She is saying that she has Nomad's machine ready. It's ready to be used. And all of us are expecting that maybe this episode or next episode, we'll see Jourmag and Primordus, get destroyed. However, you'll see that that actually doesn't become true as we go forward with this video. But apparently she says she has it ready, and we're called to Radanovus to check out how the device works and plan for the attack. Now when we get to the lab, Casimir actually pops up, which is great. I found it kind of weird how our character wasn't entirely relieved to see her again, because it's been so long, but then again, if you think about it, story-wise, it hasn't really been long. Like, if you're playing this episode after episode, it hasn't really been that long, but for us, it's been really long. So, I guess it depends from what perspective you're looking at it. But she's back, and interestingly enough, she has a bone to pick with us. She's mad about something, and you'd think that it's about Marjorie going off with Lazarus, but it's actually because we haven't invited her to Dragon's Watch. So, we end up inviting her. She obviously accepts, and she's going to be joining us on the rest of this instance. And talking about instances, actually, one of the things I noticed about this patch is that Taimi's pet project, which is the very first instance that we're talking about right now, is actually one of the 2 instances in this entire story. I don't know if everyone realized this, but we only had 2 instances in this story, and the other 3 were all in Draconis Mons. And I still feel like, and I stick to what I said in my previous videos, I feel like this patch, even though the story aspect of it was very well done, we got a lot out of the story. I feel like there wasn't enough instances, there wasn't enough places to explore, story-wise at least. I felt like there could have been more in it. The story just felt kind of short. Obviously Draconis Mons, the map in its entirety, is a huge map to explore. I don't know, I felt like that was missing something, like I said in my previous videos, and maybe it's something to do with the story. I wish they would have added more instances, because that would have given us a better perspective of the map, that would have given us some more lore, that would have given us some more story. If you think about it, we only got 2 instances, and these 2 instances really had the most information out of this patch. You could have pretty much skipped the 3 missions in between the first and the last one, and you wouldn't be missing much. You'd be missing some things with Mox and other things about Zin and some of the lore about the new map, but in reality, you'd be missing not really much, so you can keep yourself caught up with the story. So that was kind of disappointing instance-wise, since we're on that topic. But in this first instance, while we're trying to take a look at Nomad's machine and how the device works with Casimir there, Marjorie actually arrives, and she tells us that there's something wrong with Lazarus. And we find out, that Lazarus, it's confirmed now that Lazarus is not the real Lazarus, and someone else is behind him. And we actually find out that he's coming to the lab. So this stirs up a huge commotion. Everyone quickly needs to get evacuated. Everyone quickly needs to set up some mirrors, because Marjorie, Casimir, and Taimi and the commander came up with this method that they're actually able to reflect his true identity through his illusion through some of these mirrors. That's what's basically happening here. Everyone's setting up these mirrors, so when he does come, everyone's evacuated, everyone's safe, and the commander, Taimi, Marjorie, and Casimir can deal with Lazarus, bring him to these mirrors, and basically see his true identity past the illusion. Unfortunately, what happens is that Lazarus actually already gets there quicker than anyone expected. As Taimi tells Flunt and the other Asurans in the lab to get out, evacuate, Lazarus is actually already here and traps everyone in the lab. And then we have Taimi reluctantly telling Flunt and everyone else to go through the secret lab that she has, the Dragon's Lab. They go through that while Lazarus arrives, and from there we get into the real revelation of who Lazarus is. And who is Lazarus? It ends up being Balthazar, the human god of war and fire. Now, this is something that a lot of people, not a lot of people expected, because some people thought that it may have been a different god. Other people may have thought it was a champion of Primordus, and there were a lot of different theories going around, but I actually wasn't too surprised that it was Balthazar, the human god. Obviously, Casimir has a completely different reaction. Once we find out that it's Balthazar, Casimir actually is completely shocked and actually tells the commander and everyone else that she doesn't want to be involved in this, and she completely leaves. It was kind of weird how she all of a sudden literally came 5 minutes ago and wants to be part of the Dragon's Watch, and then she finds out Balthazar is portraying Lazarus, and all of a sudden she just leaves again. So that was kind of weird. I don't know what the point behind that is, but it's another storyline we could follow. And one thing that's very certain from this patch is that there are a lot of storylines to follow here. Some people are also saying that there might be some type of breakup between Casimir and Marjorie, because Marjorie ends up staying and helping the commander. Casimir ends up leaving and not helping because she doesn't like the idea. So some people are actually saying there might be like a small storyline between Casimir and Marjorie, them breaking up. There's now obviously a storyline with Balthazar now, because he's not Lazarus really anymore. So that's a whole entire new storyline. We're not even worrying about reviving Lazarus anymore or trying to figure out anything about the aspects. Now a whole new story arch open with Balthazar and what his intentions are. So I'm glad that there are a lot of storylines opening up, and we can really go in any direction we want to go. Aurene we still have, the other Elder Dragons we still have, Balthazar we have. There are a lot of different things that can actually open up here for the next expansion or even the next episode, so I like that. Now, even though I did say it's kind of weird how Casimir came and then left very quickly, it's also important to remember one thing. The humans view the gods as real gods that they worship, that they think they're the ones that brought Tyria the way it is. They're the ones that gave the humans a place to live in Tyria. So they view them as a higher deity, and that's kind of why Casimir leaves the way she does. So while it's weird from a player's perspective, it's not so weird when you think about lore-wise. It's not so weird when you think about it from Casimir's perspective. So this could mean a huge amount of things for the human race, for Tyria, for the gods in general. This revelation that Balthazar is portraying himself as Lazarus is really big for the entire Guild Wars franchise. So that's one of the things that has also been a huge discussion on different forums on Reddit, and it's even been something that's been going on through my mind. Why did Balthazar want to do this? What was his motive? And this is one of the storylines that ArenaNet could take to for the next expansion, or that we could be looking at for the next episode even. But anyhow, Lazarus comes. We end up going into a bit of a combat sequence with him, but eventually, he ends up taking Nomad's machine. He takes Taimi's device. He leaves. Luckily, Taimi has a tracking device on the machine, and it signals us to go to Draconis Mons, and that's how we end up going to that map in the first place. So that instance basically ends there, and then we end up taking a submarine docked at Radazzoum to bring us to Draconis Mons. Now, I really like, and I applaud the devs for doing this, I really liked how we got to Draconis Mons. We didn't go through some dumb portal, we didn't go through some weird way of getting there, we didn't just go there because it conveniently led from one specific zone, and the only way you can get there is from one zone, like we have at Bloodstone Fen. This is a real place on the map that we got to from the submarine in Radazzoum. Now, thinking about it, I have not actually checked if you can still go there after the story instance to Draconis Mons from Radazzoum. I'm definitely going to check that after I record this video, because that's really interesting. But if you're still able to go there through the submarine, that would be really cool, even if you're not doing the story. But really awesome. I thought that was a really cool way to get to the new map through the submarine. It really made it seem like it's a real place in Tyria, and we're getting there through a real form of transportation. Now, what happens on Draconis Mons, I feel like they meant to make it important, and there probably is a lot of lore behind it, but I just don't see it being a huge part of the patch. I don't see it being a huge part of the story. Obviously, you have the oak carts there, and obviously you have them giving you a druid's blessing. So I'm pretty sure if you go deeper into that map and do all the little side quests and all the collections and all the events, there's bound to be a lot of lore behind the oak carts and the druids there. I just haven't gone through all that yet, but from the story itself, basically what happens from here on out is we try to find the tracker. We end up finding out that it exploded, and the oak carts there are actually going to help us find this god being, which is what they refer it to. They end up telling us that he is in the Titan's throat at the center of the map, and that's very dangerous, and that no plant or flesh could ever go there because they'll basically burn without protection. So we end up going through this huge chain of quests where there are 4 druids that are kept prisoner in 4 different vaults around the area set up by Zin, and we'll have to go to each of these places, free the prisoners, and we'll get granted a blessing, and 4 layers of it are enough to protect us against the heat to enter Titan's throat. And another cool thing that also happens while you're on the island, you actually run into Mox, one of the golems from Guild Wars 1. That was really awesome. I did not think they were going to incorporate such an old golem from like hundreds of years ago into the story, and he actually comes into your home instance. We actually save him off of Draconis Mons, and he's like a jukebox in your home instance. You can talk to him in your home instance, and you can tell him to play certain songs that he has, certain soundtrack pieces, and he also makes some pretty funny comments when you enter about your cats and about some other things that are on your home instance. So really cool feature there that they added into your home instance. A really cool character they added into the map as well. Made the story a bit more interesting than it would have without that character. So make sure to check that out in your home instance if you have not yet. Now, there's one other important thing that does happen while we explore Draconis Mons and while we go through a lot of these side missions where there is no instance. And this is really important, actually. So originally, the way Nomad's machine was supposed to work, it's supposed to work in the sense that we're able to pin both Primordus's magic and Jourmag's magic against each other, so that when they go against each other, they basically negate each other. However, what Taimi actually ends up revealing to us after she's thought about it some more, she did a simulation with it, what basically ends up happening is that if you were to put the 2 powers against each other, Taimi believes that destroying one of the dragons would destabilize the flow of magic and then also destroy Tyria at the exact same time. So in simple terms, as I saw one person on Reddit term it, killing more dragons equals more loose magic equals Tyria goes boom. Not killing dragons equals people go boom. So in a way, whether you kill the dragons, whether you don't kill the dragons in one way or another, because the way the machine works, because the way the magic works in Tyria, the flow of magic, the eternal alchemy, essentially Tyria is bound to be doomed. So that's a really important part of the story that I found really interesting, because all this time we thought that this plan would work. All this time, through this entire Living World Season 3, we thought, okay, this is how it's gonna go down. We're gonna fight the two dragons, we'll pin the magic against each other, and boom, we're done. But now completely plot twist. And this is one of the things I quickly want to pause to take a note of as well. Part of me, actually, you know what, I'll save this for later on when we talk about Balthazar more in detail, because I feel like it fits more in that section. So let's go ahead and move on real quick. We enter Titan's Throat basically after we do all those little side missions, and we end up getting the 4 layers of protection. And in the Titan's Throat, we discover some sort of blockade in the floor. And I thought this instance was really well done. It was a really fun instance. It had some really unique mechanics behind it, and we've never really seen an instance like this. So this is definitely one of my favorite instances in the entire Living World Season 3. So it was a lot of fun. I played with a few of my friends, and I thought the way you had to cooperate and the way you had to jump through the big hole in the ground to get to the center was really awesome. And we also see Taimi bringing Scruffy 2.0, which I thought was really cool. That's a neat little addition to this story instance. He's still weaponless, but he is protected against the heat, so maybe we'll see Scruffy 2.0 be involved in the story a bit more later on. Essentially though, if you played the story, and if you didn't play the story, you start scanning things, and through scanning things and collecting orbs that fly in the air and shooting them down to specific areas, you end up breaking a huge hole in the ground, and you keep on going level down, level down, level down, until you get to the 3rd layer. And when you break through the 3rd layer, you see Balthazar floating above Taimi's device. Now from here on, we basically confront Balthazar. We try to stop him from using the machine. He ends up summoning 2 of the Balthazar hounds, and I'll tell you this. When we got to that point, when me and my 2 other friends, we did the story together, we got to that point, I remember very clearly one of my friends saying, there's no way we're going to kill a god. There's no way we're going to be able to kill these 2. There's no way just the 3 of us, just regular Tyrian races, are going to defeat something this ancient and powerful. And you know what? Obviously, I knew we were going to defeat them, because that's just, I mean, you knew you were going to defeat them, because why else, you know, most of the time when you fight a boss, you defeat it. So that was kind of weird, and it kind of devalued. And for me, it kind of was kind of sucky how we killed these hounds easy, and we ended up, you know, being able to interfere with Balthazar, and he easily could have killed us. And you know, it just brings that whole thought process of Balthazar being this huge god of war, and his hounds being powerful, and coming from Balthazar, the god himself. You know, just the 3 of us, just the commander character, were able to defeat these things. It seemed a bit unrealistic, but you know, I guess that's something you have to accept moving forward through some of these story instances. So that was the only thing that I had to deal with. Overall, the fight was very interesting, and it was a really cool instance as well, so I guess that made up for it. Essentially though, both hounds get defeated, and Taimi prepares her device to overload and explode to basically not allow Balthazar to use it. But unfortunately, before any of that can even happen, Balthazar launches one last attack that knocks the commander to the ground. The device overloads, Balthazar absorbs some of the energy and the magic there, and then he just disappears. And from that point on, Taimi confirms that Primordus has become inactive, and she assumes that Jourmag has become inactive as well. However, Balthazar is roaming about probably, and who knows what plans he has. So that's kind of how the entire story ends. Now, one of my biggest criticisms about this entire patch and the story and about Flashpoint is the following. One, why make an entire season about Primordus and Jourmag and then end it with them being inactive again? I mean, we started with them being inactive already. So this entire season, it was hyped about them being active and being a danger, and now they're inactive again. It just sort of, I mean, even though we got a lot of story out of it, even though we got a lot of character development out of it, even though each of the patches were really well done, even though it had content, even though it was fun to play through all the episodes, it just seems like they could have easily just not done Living World Season 3, and we would sort of, kind of be in the same state that we were in before it even started, with the exclusion, obviously, that, you know, Lord Cardicus will still be around, and Lazarus wouldn't be around. But kind of the same argument I have with Lazarus. I mean, Lazarus was supposed to be the leader of the White Mantle, and we would have a huge White Mantle storyline, and it was cool to have the raid, Stronghold of the Faithful, to come up around the exact same time. But now that Lazarus is fake and he's Balthazar, what ties does that have to the White Mantle? Is there going to be a White Mantle storyline still? Are we just going to forget about the White Mantle now? Are we never going to really have much to do with them anymore? It just feels like now, because Lazarus is not real and Balthazar is the real villain, a lot of the things that happened in the season just seem like they couldn't have happened at all, and it wouldn't have made that huge of a difference. So that was one of the things that I sort of felt while playing the story. You know, maybe there is a much bigger impact that I'm just overlooking, but that's one of the things that I thought was kind of strange. And the same with Nomad's machine. You know, throughout this entire Living World Season 3, we're so focused on getting this machine to work, so focused on trying to destroy Primordus and Jourmag, and then all of a sudden they become inactive and we don't destroy them at all. So who knows? It seems very unlikely that in the next episode we're going to deal anything with Primordus and Jourmag, because there's no way we're going to be able to just go through so much content, set up a plan, set up a fight, you know, have the fight. There's no way we're going to have all of that happen and kill 2 Elder Dragons in one Living World Season 3 episode. It seems very unlikely. And now that they're both inactive again, who knows if it's even likely we'll fight them at all in the expansion. So, I mean, this really brings a whole new perspective to not only the next episode, but a whole new perspective to the expansion even. I mean, we could go anywhere from this point. I mean, before, at least we had a clue. Okay, we're fighting Primordus and Jourmag. We have a machine here. We have a plan. We're going to execute our plan. But now it seems like we're back to step 1. We have Balthazar. Yes, that is a focus that we have. You know, he's a new villain. Who knows what he's trying to do? You know, we have to worry about him. But it seems like we're back to sort of square one. So, it's kind of strange. It's also kind of intriguing. It's kind of both. I like it, and the other half of me doesn't like it. I would have liked to progress the story forward and not progress it in a way where we have to restart from square one again. But I will say, a lot of interesting things happened in this story, and despite some of my feelings towards some things that I wish would have gone different, I will say this story was very well done. This patch, story-wise, was very well done, and I really enjoyed seeing the revelation of Lazarus. I really enjoyed seeing how Taimi, for once, even though she's this very smart Asuran that, you know, we always trusted, and she makes all these cool, ingenious things happen, it's cool to see that even she sometimes make mistakes. And a lot of just huge things happen in this story for this episode, and it means a ton for the future of the story. This episode is probably one of the prime episodes you want to play. You want to have access to play because it affects so many things in the future, and I loved it. I loved it. Despite my feelings towards Draconis Mons, despite my feelings towards the lack of instances, despite my feelings towards maybe there should have been more, story-wise, the script, the writing behind it, the way in the directions that we could be going is just really exciting, and I cannot wait to see what happens in episode 6. Continuously, ArenaNet keeps on making these episodes better and better, and it really gets people involved in the story. Even people that I know that never read dialogue, could care less about the lore, are even as intrigued as ever with Living World Season 3 and the story behind Guild Wars 2 and the lore behind it. It's a really great thing to see that developers are able to convey a story that everyone can take interest in and not just skip over like some people usually do with the dialogue in the game. So really cool. That's my little summary. That's my little recap. My thoughts, my opinions. If you have any of your own opinions, feedback, comments, questions, your own speculation, some of the things that you liked or didn't like about the story, let me know in the comments section. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. We'd love to talk with you guys in the comments section as usual, so be sure to be down there. And if you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like. We really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. We'd love to have you on board. And I do want to quickly mention, for some reason, my last video about the Draconis Mons map guide for some reason did not show up in my other channel sub box. I usually have my main channel subscribed to all my channels, so I can just check to see all videos are popping up. And for some reason, the Draconis Mons video did not show up in the sub box, so if you happen to miss the last video I did on Draconis Mons, it's a map guide. It goes over my opinions on the map specifically, what you can do in the map, the rewards, the events in it. I'll have a link to it at the end of the video as an end screen annotation. You can click it and watch if you have not yet. So if you want to check out that most recent video, go ahead and click the annotation here. If you want to check out a similar video to this one, click the annotation here. You want to subscribe to my tutorial, vlogging, other channels I have, click the annotation here. And if you want to donate $1 to my Patreon page, you can click the annotation here. Would really appreciate it. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. As always, guys, this is GSmaniamsmart. I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.